fantasy football drafts right around the corner here, and here's a few wide receivers I think are going to have a breakout season this year. The first guy is Michael Pittman Jr. of the Indianapolis Colts. So Pittman Jr., I had him as a guy to target, and I also have him a guy to break out this season. So last year in his rookie year for the Colts, 40 catches, 503 yards, a receiving touchdown, but he was hurt last season for 8 weeks, I remember, and right now, second season under his belt in Frank Reich's offense, and Carson Wentz, who should be ready week one. I think he's a better, at this point of their careers, than Phillip Rivers was last year here, and I think Pittman Jr. is explosive. He's definitely a playmaker, and we saw some flashes last season with a few games over 100 yards for him, so I think Pittman Jr. goes out there and he plays well for this Colt team, and he's definitely a steal as well at 139th ranked coming into Fantasy League. So he's going anywhere from 12th to the 14th round. Most people are going to have him on their bench, or he'll go undrafted, depending what goes on in your drafts and what type of format and how many league team it is. But Michael Pittman Jr. is a play I think breaks out, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him have 1,000-yard receiving season this year. We know T.Y. Hilton's still there, but he's getting up there in age. And this Colt team, they like throwing the football a lot, and obviously Carson Wentz had his best years of his career where Frank Reich as his offensive coordinator, and I think we see Pittman get a lot of opportunities. The next wide receiver is Brandon Aiyuk of the San Francisco 49ers. So Aiyuk last season, he had a pretty good rookie year over there in San Francisco, and they went through a lot of quarterbacks. Last year, 77 rushing yards he had, 2 rushing touchdowns, 748 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns on 6 catches. So very solid numbers for Brandon Aiyuk. And I think once again this season, he's going to have the breakout year here, is Aiyuk, especially if Trey Lance with his big cannon and arm is quarterback starting week 1. But I still think Lance will be the quarterback by week 3 or 4. But anyway, Brandon Aiyuk, he does it all. He can run the routes, he can burn you down the sidelines on the deep go route, and he has good hands and can catch the football. And right here, he's in a pretty good solid offense here in San Francisco. So no matter who's throwing him the football, he still gets the job done. And we saw that last season, but I think this year in his second year, he's going to have an explosive season here as Aiyuk. And he's a player going anywhere from the 5th to the 6th round in most fantasy drafts. And right now, he's a number 2 or flex wide receiver in fantasy leagues. But this guy, if he really has a potential breakout year like I think he could have, he could put up borderline number 1 wide receiver numbers up here this season for your fantasy team. The next wide receiver is JaMarr Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. So JaMarr Chase reunited with former college quarterback Joe Burrow over here in Cincinnati. And they're projecting a good season here for Chase, 980 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. And I definitely could see that going from this explosive rookie. He was one of the best wide receivers in the last decade here in college football, is JaMarr Chase. And he's another wide receiver going anywhere from the 5th to 6th round, the number 2-3 receiver. And a lot of things are going to open up for him, in my opinion, as well in this offense. They got 2 other good receivers in Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. And right here with Joe Burrow throwing his former teammate the ball, obviously they got good rapport. And obviously that's a plus to JaMarr Chase. I think he could reach that 980 or even reach the 1,000-yard mark this season in his rookie year. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him put up big numbers or similar numbers to like Justin Jefferson did last season with the Minnesota Vikings. So he's definitely a receiver on the breakout radar. The next wide receiver is Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. So another wide receiver rookie here. And Waddle, he's going to fit right in with this Miami team. And this Miami team, they're not that great at the receiver position. We know they got Devontae Parker. We know Tui's the man now over there at quarterback, with Fitzpatrick going to the Washington football team in the offseason here. But Jalen Waddle, another speedster, another guy who can run all the routes, and another guy who can make plays, and we saw it throughout his college football career. And right here, this Dolphin offense, they definitely can use his speed and playmaking ability to reach the next level this season here in the NFL. But right here, Jalen Waddle's a player. He's going late in drafts, and this guy's got total great upside, especially going 13th to the 15th round, so the final few rounds of fantasy drafts. And he's got definitely potential to break out and definitely potential to be a number 2 or flex receiver for fantasy teams this season. So Jalen Waddle is a guy to target late, and he's a guy with a great potential to break out this season over there in Miami, and the fifth and final wide receiver that I think could break out this year is Antonio Brown of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So AB, we know he had a lot of off the field issues over the last few seasons, but last year he played a decent role over there in half a season with the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they won the Super Bowl, and they brought him back on a nice contract this season once again. I know they got Chris Godwin, I know they got Mike Evans, we know they got Gronk, we know they got Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. We know this team's solid with Antonio Brown. He definitely looked like a wide receiver that wasn't finished last year. Last year, in 10 games, 45 catches, 483 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. It wouldn't surprise me to see Brown have close to 1,000 yards and 8 or 9 touchdowns this year. And they're projecting him this year 900 yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. So Tom Brady, I don't think he's finished. I think he has another big year, and it wouldn't surprise me, obviously, to see the Bucs once again make the Super Bowl or make a deep playoff push and run this year. But AB, another year under his belt now in Tampa Bay. He knows what Bruce Arians looking for. He knows what Tom Brady's looking for. And Tom Brady, he wanted this guy on his team, and he was right about him. He was behaved, and he definitely helped his team win a Super Bowl as AB. So AB, he's a wide receiver going anywhere from the 8th to the 10th round. And if this guy's mindset is right and he's back to what he was doing a few years ago, he could have potential to be a top receiver this season in fantasy football. And I can't put nothing past a talent like Antonio Brown. It wasn't the talent he lost. It was just the off the field issues and whatever was going on with him. But Antonio Brown, he's at the place he wants to be with Tom Brady, and I think he could break out and put up a big season. So that's a few wide receivers that I see breaking out this season, entering the 2021 season and fantasy football drafts.